the Armed Forces provides amazing training.
I think about veterans as people who have already figured out how to serve.
My military skills have been essential.
Hiring veterans is a great business case. They're the best employees we have. They're flexible, hardworking, and they're used to a global workplace.
If that isn't an asset to any company, I don't know what is.
Hiring America, the award-winning television job fair for American veterans. Connecting you with companies who know your value. Learn about employers who are actively hiring today and organizations that support veterans. Your future success starts right here on Hiring America. Hiring America is produced in cooperation with the VFW. No one does more for veterans.
Welcome to Hiring America, the television series that helps military veterans find jobs and transition into meaningful careers. I'm Andrea Vasquez in Washington, D.C. We will be speaking with companies that are hiring and with veterans like you who've made successful transitions into the civilian workforce. And we will give you the information to get you the job you deserve. Log on to our website, hiringamerica.net, for more information and connect with us on our Facebook page and Instagram.
We are not just HR professionals in this room. We're mothers, we're daughters, we're spouses, we're friends, we're family. And we all are connected to people that are veterans or people with disabilities.
I was surprised, very surprised, first, that we had a Veterans Outreach Center, and secondly, that it served up to 200 veterans per month. We had a panel discussion and collaborated with several agencies in the area: the Veterans Outreach Center at Salvation Army, Goodwill, the VA Social and Medical Services, ESGR, and the Men's Shelter for Homeless Veterans. A very important part of this education was to raise awareness of the growing trend for homeless veterans.
Working together, the many volunteers from SHRM and the small staff of CMA have had a significant impact on the employment outcomes for hundreds of military veterans in our community. One key to our success was meeting with active service members before they left their military service.
Please go out of your way to employ veterans, their spouses. Here's the key. Many have sacrificed for our nation to stay safe and to stay free. Active military veterans, National Guard, reservists, spouses and children, and let's don't forget the families. For those of you in the audience who are members of the military family and who are taking good care of us, please stand. Let's recognize these folks who have sacrificed their lives for our country.
After 20 years as an Army officer, followed by a career as an account director at an advertising firm, Andrew Morton is now the Director of Social Engagement at SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management. In this role, he's responsible for all social media activities and communications. Andrew joins us now here in Washington, D.C. Andrew, welcome to Hiring America.
Thank you for having me.
So what is SHRM?
Well, SHRM is the Society for Human Resource Management, and there are over 285,000 SHRM members from across the country, from across the globe, in India and Latin America, and in the Middle East, and everywhere in between. And SHRM is really where human resource professionals work together to move the HR profession forward and kind of collaborate both at the grassroots level in their local chapters and then at national organizational events such as our SHRM annual conference and in conferences like the Volunteer Leaders Summit.
What is the Volunteer Leaders Summit?
To me, it's everyone's favorite conference because SHRM is not unlike a lot of other great organizations, whether it's the American Red Cross or other professional societies. We don't function without our volunteers, and there's a network of thousands of SHRM volunteers, well over 6,000 SHRM volunteers across the country who make SHRM work. They are the backbone of SHRM, and we bring several of our SHRM leadership volunteers here to Washington, D.C. so they can network, focus on best practices, talk about managing their chapters and their state councils, and truly do all the work that really makes SHRM a meaningful organization.
Tell me about the Pinnacle Awards taking place today.
You can't recognize everything that the volunteer leaders do, but what you can do is you can certainly reward outstanding chapters at different levels in different places across the country, and the initiatives that they do to help support not just human resources, but businesses, organizations, and then in particular, veterans initiatives.
Are all of SHRM's members volunteers?
Well, you know, that's the amazing thing about SHRM is that its chapters and all of its organizations at the grassroots level and at the state level, they don't function without the volunteers. In some cases, hundreds of hours of work on the part of our volunteers. And we have thousands of members who volunteer so much of their time passionately in running chapters, in running events, working at state level initiatives to support human resources. It's just an incredible, amazing feeling. I mean, I served 21 years in the military and people, they thank me for my service, but truthfully, you know, I was compensated for that in so many different ways, and it's such an honor to serve my country. These volunteers serve their profession with that same level of honor and with that same level of commitment. So in many cases, I try to return to them and say thank you for your service, because you're here doing all of this, and it isn't your day job, but it's the thing you're passionate about. And they really give back to the profession through being SHRM volunteers.
Andrew Morton, thank you for joining us on Hiring America.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back with more of Hiring America in a moment.
Continue the conversation on our Facebook page and Twitter, and visit our website at hiringamerica.net.
Statement of support for the Guard and Reserve. We recognize the Guard and Reserve are essential to the strength of our nation and the well-being of our communities. In the highest American tradition, the patriotic men and women of the Guard and Reserve serve voluntarily. That word, ladies and gentlemen, is very important. They serve voluntarily in an honorable and vital profession. They train to respond to their community and their country in time of need. They deserve the support of every segment of our society. If these volunteer forces are to continue to serve our nation, increased public understanding is required of the central role of the Guard and the Reserve in preserving our national security.
Tom Bullock is the Chief of Employer Outreach at Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, or ESGR. He's recognized as an expert on marketing initiatives to help members of the military reserves find meaningful careers. Tom is a decorated Air Force veteran, and he joins us here in Washington, D.C. Thanks for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Can you tell us about the ESGR and what branches of the military it serves?
I sure can. Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve was founded in 1972. Our mission is to provide education and information to the employers of National Guardsmen and Reservists. We serve all of the 7 SEALs, which are all of the 7 branches of the Reserve Forces.
And we know that the Guard and Reserve are increasingly called upon. Can you explain some of the ways in which they're utilized?
Right now, there's about 23,000 National Guardsmen and Reservists that have been mobilized. Since 9/11, over 900,000 of our American citizens have been mobilized in the War on Terror and also on the conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq.
And how do you go about contacting employers on behalf of the Guard and Reserve?
We have over 4,600 volunteers. We have outreach directors in every state to where we reach out to chambers of commerce, to Rotary clubs, to anywhere there are employers.
How can employers demonstrate their support for employees who are members of the Guard and Reserve?
ESGR has a statement of support program that employers can sign that demonstrates publicly their support for their employees who serve in the National Guard and Reserve. Employers of any size can participate in the program. During this Veterans Day holiday, we signed General Motors, Caesars Entertainment, Amgen Corporation, and many other Fortune 500 companies.
What does that statement of support entail?
Well, it entails that they will comply with the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, USERRA. They will have the tools necessary to manage their employees who serve in the National Guard and Reserve. They will appreciate the values that members of the Guard and Reserve bring, and they will look for opportunities to hire more Guardsmen, reservists, transitioning service members, and veterans. And lastly, they will support their military families in peace, in crisis, and in war.
What's your relationship to SHRM?
Well, this has been a wonderful relationship. In 2010, the current president at the time, Lon O'Neill, I took him on what's known as an ESGR boss lift. That's where we take civilians on military aircraft to refuel airplanes. We had a wonderful conversation during that time, And after he agreed to sign a statement of support, which he did at the legislative conference that year, and then what he did is he challenged all 596 chapters at the time to also sign a statement of support. It took us 2 years, but all chapters and state councils signed a statement of support. And SHRM was recognized by the White House joining forces when that milestone was met.
And can you tell me about your military experience?
I graduated from high school in 1966. I served 4 years in the United States Air Force. I served in Alaska, Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I was there almost 2 years in Vietnam.
So what was your transition like coming back to civilian life?
It's certainly not what it is today. It's hard to talk about it, but when we came home, most of us went as individuals and came home as individuals. Now with the National Guard, when we take National Guard units, whole communities to war, then you have a whole outpouring of support.
So why is your role as Chief Outreach Officer important to you?
I want to make sure that young men and women who are serving in the United States military don't have to suffer what we Vietnam veterans suffered when we came home. These fine young Americans are volunteers. They sacrificed their lives, and some of them literally sacrificed their lives in the defense of our country. And I have the opportunity and honor to go out to corporate America and help them understand their employees who are serving are a true asset to their corporation or to their business, because they bring fabulous, fabulous strengths to their jobs. And more importantly, you'll never find a more dedicated group of individuals than you'll find members in the Guard and the Reserve in the United States military.
So what advice also would you give members of the Guard and Reserve looking to find a meaningful career?
Well, there are many outlets right now. I ask that they work through our employment specialists that we have at ESGR under our Hero to Hired program. They're in every state in the nation. We also attend job fairs, hiring fairs of different chambers of commerce and other organizations.
How can employers participate in the Statement of Support program?
We have state committees in every state in the nation and also the territories. They can go on our website at www.esgr.mil. More importantly, they can call me, because I'll tell you why. I'm challenging every employer in the United States of America to sign a statement of support. My phone number is 571-372-0709. If you want to sign a statement of support, call Tom.
Tom Bullock, thanks so much for joining us on Hiring America.
My pleasure.
This Military Minute is brought to you by the Veterans of Foreign Wars. The VFW has a place for you.
Sergeant Chuck Dybel couldn't stand the idea of someone he didn't know risking their life for him and his family, so he decided it was his job to make that sacrifice. He enlisted in the Army in 2008 and served as an airborne ranger. When Chuck got home, he planned to finish his undergrad in political science at the University of Arizona, then on to law school. But his plans were nearly interrupted when his GI Bill just couldn't quite cover the costs. That's when the VFW stepped in with a Sport Clips Help a Hero scholarship. Help a Hero scholarships are awarded twice throughout the year, exclusively to service members and veterans, and help cover the cost of tuition and fees. So far this year, 85 veterans have received scholarships. Applications are currently being accepted for the 2016 spring semester. For more information on the Help a Hero Scholarship Program, log on to vfw.org. With his education costs covered, Sergeant Dybel can now concentrate on what's really important, his upcoming wedding to Jenna and serving his country in some other capacity.
Hiring America will be back in a moment. The U.S. trucking industry has committed to hiring 100,000 veterans in the next 2 years. Military experience, regardless of MOS, is highly valued. You can find these jobs from leading employers on the website truckingtrack.org. One of the leading employers of veterans in the trucking industry is Kenan Advantage Group.
KAG stands above the competition as the employer of choice for North America's top transport professionals. Kenan Advantage Group leads the way with 5 unique platforms across the largest geographic footprint in North America.
We manage a fleet of over 6,000 tractors and 10,000 trailers.
In fuels delivery, we find KAG once again in the lead as the most geographically diverse and the only transporter of fuels coast to coast. Kenan Advantage Group leads the industry in safety and security processes. The company maintains the best equipment on the road, not to mention an outstanding reputation for safety.
Our drivers start the day talking about safety, and they end the day that way too. We push safety as a habit, deeply ingraining it into our team's character.
What you can expect from us are leaders with grit, passion for the business, and compassion for each other.
Kenan Advantage Group, or KAG, is the largest tank truck transporter in North America with over 300 locations nationwide. Joining us to talk about KAG is Mary Wright. With over 30 years of service to the transportation industry, Mary is the Director of Driver Recruitment at KAG, where she oversees both driver hiring and retention. Mary, welcome to Hiring America.
Thank you.
What led you to the transportation industry?
I just like the diversity and the change and the excitement of hiring drivers, mechanics, and tank washers.
Tell us a little bit more about the Kenan Advantage Group.
Sure. Often we're referred to also as the KAG. We are in 44 states and Canada, and we're actually the largest tank truck company in the industry. Our leadership has high integrity. It's a great company. We treat our employees well, especially our drivers, mechanics, and tank washers.
How do you go about employing vets?
Well, what we're doing right now is trying to get the word out that Kenan Advantage Group, we've always required experience, tractor-trailer experience, a safe driving record. And right now, some of our vets don't have the experience that's required, so we're putting them into an extensive training course.
First you'll hire them and then you put them in the course?
Yes, we do. First of all, they need to have a CDL, Class A CDL, with their tank and hazmat endorsement, and we'll also help them get their hazmat endorsement. After that, we bring them in and put them with a certified trainer. We're going to do that for 60 days. We pay them an amount that would cause them to have a good living. After that, they go into another guaranteed pay, which is also an increased amount from their training pay while they're still in extensive training with a certified trainer. This will be usually 5 to 6 months.
Is there a particular recruiting story that resonates with you?
Yes, there is, and it's actually a vet. We actually hired him about 5 months ago. His dad works for the company. He works in Toledo, Ohio. And this gentleman was on base in Washington, state of Washington. He contacted us about a driving position, had no tractor-trailer experience, so we put him in this extensive training. So far, he's been there for 5 months. He loves it. His dad is thrilled. He gets to be around his family. And probably in another 30 days, I think he'll be released. But he's got a good career. He can actually work anywhere, but we hope he'll retire with KAG.
You know how much our service members have sacrificed for all of us here in this country. How does it make you feel to be able to say, you're hired, you have a job?
It makes me feel wonderful because they serve our country. And because of them, we have a safe country. We're able to do the things that we want to do here. And I think we should all give back as much as what they have given to us. And there's going to be some of them coming home, and I want to be able to employ them.
For those interested in a job at KAG, where can they go for more information?
They can give us a call at 800-871-4581, or they can go to thekag.com.
Mary, thank you for joining us here on Hiring America.
Thank you.
Check out these companies and organizations actively seeking veterans. Hiring America will be back in a moment.
Thanks for watching. The information we've just shared is all on our website, hiringamerica.net. Log on and find out about more companies who are hiring veterans. And don't forget to connect with us on our Facebook page and Instagram. I'm Andrea Vasquez in Washington. Join us next week for another episode of Hiring America.
Hiring America is produced in cooperation with the VFW. No one does more for veterans. Promotional consideration provided by JetBlue, a proud employer of those who've served. This program made possible by the generous support of the following companies: